Hello, youth. Hope you guys are doing well. This is your midweek encouragement. I'm going to jump right in this week, and then we'll talk about Sunday at the end. But one of the things that, as we go through the book of Proverbs, that you're going to find that gets brought up a lot is this idea of concerns about money. And the reason that this happens is because money and wealth and possessions is one of those things that when you start to talk about wisdom, we must actively seek to apply wisdom to those areas of our lives. Because if we don't, it can be easy for us to leave those things unchecked, and then it leads to the way of folly and other things. So, and as youth, some of y'all are either right at that age where you're right at the cusp of having to think about money, having to think about finances and that type of thing, or you have begun to work and earn money and you have begun to think about those things. And so as you grow and as you continue to grow up, the way that you interact with money should grow with you. It should change, and it should not stay the way it is now. If it does, that's not a good thing. And so today, we're going to look at a couple verses today in Proverbs where the teacher is going to talk about money. So this is in Proverbs chapter 3, starting in verse 9. They say, "Honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all of your produce." And so when it comes to money or possessions, those type things, as people of God, we are called first and foremost to, in this way of wisdom, to honor the Lord with what we have. And we're challenged to honor God with not just the money and the finances that we have, but our possessions. That can be like, how do you use your spending money? How do you use your car? How do you use those type things to honor God? And we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like here in a second. But the note that he says, "And with the first fruits of your produce," is what you are to honor God with. So it is not taking the janky leftovers that, no, I don't want these. And so since I don't want these, now God can use them. That's not what the idea here. The idea of first fruits carries two things. The first is that it is like this first gleaning of the season. And so there is this attachment of it's the thing that you want. You want to go make that first harvest of produce. But if we are offering that to God, it's instantly saying, you know what, that's the one I want the most, but that's the one I want to give up to God right now and honor God with. And the second thing is it's first. It's almost immediately when it is available, you seek to use it for the glory of God. And if those two ideas are challenging to you, they're challenging to me. And it should challenge us to move beyond this idea of, in church, well, I have to give my 10%, I have to tithe. It should move us beyond that to this idea of, not only do I want to honor God with my wealth, but I want to honor God with the best of what I have. And so that is this wisdom that this teacher puts forth to this young person. And he challenges us to honor God with what we have. And we should do that as often as we can. Notice it's the first fruits. As soon as we have the chance, we should seek to do that. And then, so it says, verse 10, "Then your barns will be filled with plenty, and your vats will be bursting with wine." I want to remind you here that the Proverbs are not promises. This is wisdom literature. It is teaching us the way of wisdom and things that are generally true. And so it is generally true that when we honor the Lord with what we have and the first fruits, and we give our best portion, it is mostly generally true that we will find and have more than what we could ever need. And I think we're going to talk a little bit about one of the ways that happens. Because there's something about worrying about money and things that leads to struggle. if you spend your whole time going, well, I don't know if I'm going to have gas money, I don't know if I'm going to have this, that, or the other, it can lead us to focus on the fact that we aren't sure of something. And then when we are met with an instance where God is maybe giving us the opportunity to pursue something new in that area, and he could provide for us, we miss it. And so I don't think this is one of those things where when it is true, and I stress when it is true, because we're going to talk about when it is not true always here in a second, but when it is true, I think sometimes we read these type passages and we think, yes, if I give God and I honor God with my money, God is going to fill my bank account today. He's going to give me this thing next week. And that's not the case. Often the way that this perception of having enough and being filled comes about is through us aligning our understanding and our way of life with the way of wisdom of God. And as we do that, we care less and less about having and having and having, and to where we are content and we are filled. We don't need it says your vats are bursting with wine, and we don't need a second one because we're content where we are at. I think this is more the idea of what God does and how God brings about this idea of full and fulfillment through our honoring God. I think it happens more in our heart and less in our bank account. But this is mostly the case. This is wisdom literature. Wisdom literature is not promises, and it is not always the case. Sometimes we really strive to honor God with our wealth, and sometimes it seems like it's falling on where? I don't know. And that is not to say anything about the faithfulness of God. If you want to read more about this idea of, well, how do I pursue the way of wisdom when I thought I did, but it seems to not have gone the way I expected? The entire book of Ecclesiastes is written to address that idea. And it is essentially this. It is a lifetime pursuit of wisdom. And so there might be this momentary thing right now that doesn't seem to be going the way it is, but we have to remember a greater picture here. And sometimes that greater picture doesn't mean a full bank account. That's okay. And so I believe when we encounter these type passages, we're going to encounter a few of them in Proverbs. It can be challenging to get to them and go, well, shoot, I don't have money. First fruits, I barely got my last fruits. Like, I don't know. The idea is that we honor God with what we have. And so everybody can do that. If all you have is time as a young person, honor God with your time. Give your time. Use your time to serve others. If all you have is a car and a couple gallons of gas, honor God by giving somebody a ride who needs it. Show love to them. And in doing so, you will honor God. If you have money, seek to use that money to honor God, whether it's through your church or other ways around you. And so that is a challenge to not just think of this as dollar bills in an account, but the things we have goes much farther than money, and we can honor God with those. And so I would say that when we interact with these passages, one of the senses as we take Proverbs and we take other books of the Bible that also deal with wisdom and money and these type things, and we seek to bring those together into this full counsel, I think we can better understand it like this. When we honor God and give God our best, God often blesses that with fulfillment and plenty. But when that does not happen, when it does not seem like we have enough, God can and should still be honored with what we have. Trusting that God is faithful and that there is a reason for us not experiencing plenty in this moment. I hope that challenges you to rethink how you think of what you have. And I hope that you look for opportunities to honor God with the things that God has given you in this coming week and into the months to come. A little bit about Sunday. So Sunday is not regular youth group, but it's at the regular youth group time. if y'all can be here at the church as close to 4 as you can, we are going to be loading up the bus and heading over to Pastor Ben's for youth group on the farm. It's going to be a good time. I talked to Pastor Ben yesterday, and he's going to cook us up some good stuff. And we're just going to have games, and it's going to be a good time of fellowship and fun. And so if y'all can join us here to head out to the farm tomorrow at 4, and we'll be back at the church around 7. It's going to be a good time. Bring some folks. We'll look forward to seeing you Sunday. Hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Love you guys. See you soon.